Joshua chapter 4, verse 1. And it came to pass, when all the people were clean passed over Jordan, that Yahweh spoke unto Joshua, saying, Take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe a man, and command you them, saying, Take you hence out of the midst of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm, 12 stones, and you shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place where you shall lodge this night. Then Joshua called the 12 men whom he had prepared of the children of Israel, out of every tribe a man. And Joshua said unto them, Pass over before the ark of Yahweh your Elohim into the midst of Jordan, and take ye up every man of you a stone upon his shoulder, according unto the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, that this may be a sign among you, that when your children ask their fathers in times to come, saying, What mean ye by these stones? Then you shall answer them, that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, when it passed over Jordan. The waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones shall be for a memorial unto the children of Israel forever. The children of Israel did so as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones out of the midst of Jordan, as Yahweh spoke unto Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, and carried them over with them unto the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. And Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priest which bear the ark of the covenant stood. They are there unto this day. For the priest which bear the ark stood in the midst of Jordan, until everything was finished that Yahweh commanded Joshua to speak unto the people, according to all Moses commanded Joshua. And the people hastened and passed over. And it came to pass, when all the people were clean passed over, that the ark of Yahweh passed over, and the priest, in their presence of the people, and the children of Reuben and the children of Gad, the half tribe of Manasseh, passed over armed before the children of Israel, as Moses spoke unto them. About 40,000 prepared for war passed over before Yahweh unto battle, to the plains of Jericho. On that day Yahweh magnified Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him, as they feared Moses, all the days of his life. And Yahweh spoke unto Joshua, saying, Command the priests that bear the ark of the testimony, that they come up out of Jordan. Joshua therefore commanded the priests, saying, Come you up out of Jordan. And it came to pass, when the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh were come up out of the midst of Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up unto the dry land, that the waters of Jordan returned unto the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan returned unto their place, and flowed over all his banks, as they did before. And the people came up out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and encamped in Gilgal, in the east border of Jericho. Those 12 stones which they took out of Jordan did Joshua pitch in Gilgal. And he spoke unto the children of Israel, saying, When your children shall ask their fathers in times to come, saying, What mean these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Israel came over this Jordan on dry land. For Yahweh your Elohim dried up the waters of Jordan from before you, until you were passed over, as Yahweh your Elohim did to the Red Sea, which he dried up from before us, until we were gone over, that all the people of the earth might know the hand of Yahweh, that it is mighty, that you might fear Yahweh your Elohim forever. The There's a story about a guy named John who had a really horrible memory, and one day John ran into a friend whom he had not seen for a long time. He greeted him and said, "Bill, do you remember what bad memory I had?" Bill answered, "Yes, I certainly do." "Well, it's not that bad anymore. I went to a seminar and it taught me how to remember things. It was a great seminar, and now I have a wonderful memory." Bill answered, "That's great. What was the name of the seminar?" "Well," John said, "wait a minute. My wife went with me. I'll ask her." He turned and saw his wife nearby, and then he turned back to Bill and says, "What's the name of that flower with a long stem and thorns and a red bloom?" "Do you mean a rose?" he said. "Yeah, thanks," John said. "Hey, Rose, what's the name of the seminar that we attended?" The problem with far too many believers is that we have short memories. We forget the victories that Yahweh has given us. We forget the blessings that Yahweh has given us. We forget the miracles that Yahweh has performed for us. In Hebrews 13, verse 8, Yeshua Messiah is the same yesterday and today and forever. We need to remember that Yahweh has done this for us and realize that He can do it again. After Joshua and the people had crossed the Jordan, Yahweh gave Joshua another command. He said, "Choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priest stood, and to carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight." Yahweh knew that they were short-minded people, and that they would soon forget all that He had just done for them. He also knew that their faith would be severely tested in the days to come. Therefore, he had Joshua order 12 men to take stones from right in the middle of the Jordan, where the priests had stood with the ark. However, we need to notice how Joshua worded his order to the 12 men. He says, "Go over before the ark of Yahweh, your Elohim, into the middle of the Jordan." We need to see that the role of the ark in his command is crucial. He did not tell them to go and get stones from where the priests were standing, but he said to go over before the ark of Yahweh. The ark symbolized to them the presence of Yahweh. What they needed to remember was not what they had done, but what Yahweh had done. They did not cross over the Jordan on dry ground because they were all-powerful, but because Yahweh was all-powerful. The purpose of the stones was to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, "What do these stones mean?" A stone monument was commonly used as a memorial to remind future generations of what had happened at a particular place. This is also common today. We can go to some town square and see monuments to those from their community who gave their lives in a war. This was not just for the reminder to them of what Yahweh had done for them, but also a reminder to the generations to come. We can also see another reason they are to remember. Notice what Joshua calls the ark of the covenant of Yahweh. This brings us back to the idea of covenant. This victory is to be looked upon as an expression of Yahweh's covenant. Deuteronomy 7, verse 7, "Yahweh did not set His love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people, but because Yahweh loved you, and because He would keep the oath which He had sworn unto your fathers, as Yahweh brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt." Yahweh did this because He loved them. Yahweh still brings victories. I've always liked the story of the 3 old widows who lived together. One sister got up to go to bed, and halfway up the stairs, she stopped and asked, "Was I going up or was I coming down?" One sister replied with a hint of aggravation, "You were going up to bed." The second sister headed for the kitchen to make herself a sandwich. Once in the kitchen, she hollered back and to her sister who was still downstairs, "And what did I come in here for?" The sister responded again with a trace of irritation, "You were in there to make yourself a sandwich." After which she said, "I'm glad I'm not as forgetful as you both." And she knocks on the table. Then she gets up and goes over to the door and says, "Who's there?" You know, we laugh about things like that, but isn't that exactly how we are when it comes to Yahweh? Yahweh gives us financial victory, and then the next time we get into financial trouble, what do? Worry. Yahweh gives us victory in our spiritual lives, and then when trouble comes our way, what do? We whine. Let me tell you something. If Yahweh did it once, he will do it again. If he gave you victory once, he will do it again. If he came to your rescue once, he will do it again. If he was there when you needed him before, he'll do it again. We need to remember that Yahweh doesn't change. His ways don't change. His character doesn't change. His grace doesn't change. If he did it once, he would do it again. So remember the blessings. The Israelites did as Joshua commanded. Verses 8 through 14 stress the blessings of obedience. The beginning of verse 8 says, "So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them." The representatives of the 12 tribes did exactly as Joshua had commanded them, and they picked up the stones from the riverbed. The very fact that they were able to do so is a sign of the blessings of obedience. If they had not obeyed Yahweh and stepped out into the river, they never would have experienced this miracle of faith. However, because of their obedience, they experienced the power of Yahweh. Obedience brings blessings. Not only were they obeying Joshua, but in reality, they were obeying Yahweh. The end of verse 8 says, "As Yahweh had told Joshua." Joshua was Yahweh's appointed leader, and as they obeyed him, they obeyed Yahweh. If we obey Yahweh's leader, we will be blessed. And who is Yahweh's leader today? Yeshua. If we disobey Yahweh's leader, well, you get the picture. In verse 9, we see that Joshua wanted the people to remember the blessings of obedience. It says, Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan, at the spot where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant had stood. And they are there to this day. Okay, here we have a little textual problem. If you notice in the NIV, there is a footnote for this verse. It states that this verse can read, Joshua also set up 12 stones. In fact, in this verse, it appears that Joshua also built another memorial of 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan. This is more likely rendering of the text. Joshua also set up 12 stones, indicating that Joshua set up another set of 12 stones at the place where the priest had stood. Although at this time the Jordan was at flood stage, for the most of the year the Jordan is only a few feet deep. At the fords, which this is the fords, therefore this monument would have been visible. When they saw it, they would remember the blessings of obedience. Note this about the obedience and sacrifice. We have all heard, and perhaps some of you might have even been to a revival, Revival is nothing more or less than a new obedience to Yahweh. If we want the blessings of revival, it will take the disciple or discipline of obedience. We need to remember what happened in the past when we have obeyed Yahweh, remembering the blessings it brought. We need to remember what happened in the past when we disobeyed Yahweh and what it brought. Even the laws of nature tell us that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The law of Yahweh is no different. If we obey Yahweh, we will be blessed. If we disobey Yahweh, we won't. So we remember the miracles. The waters of the Jordan returned. Notice that the ark is mentioned again in verse 16, but it is given a new designation, the ark of the testimony. This word testimony, which means to repeat, to do again, has the sense of repetition and permanence. Again, the idea of remembrance is stressed here. The thing that we are to remember was the miraculous way that Yahweh acted on their behalf. Joshua commands the priests to come up out of the river carrying the ark. And it says, no sooner had they set their feet on dry ground than the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and ran at flood stage as before. The miraculous nature of the crossing event is once again highlighted in the statement that the waters returned to their flood stage the moment the priest's feet touched the dry ground. There could be no doubt that this was a miracle of Yahweh, and he did not want them to forget what he had done. When they got to the place of encampment in Gilgal, Joshua set up the monument with the 12 stones taken from the Jordan and said, in the future, when your descendants ask their fathers, what do these stones mean? Tell them, Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. Tell them that Yahweh did a miracle. Tell them that in our hour of need, our Elohim showed up. Tell them that nothing, not even the elements, can stop our Elohim. Tell them that his arm is not so short that he cannot save. Tell them that our Elohim is Yahweh in heaven and on earth below. Then he reminds them that this is the same thing that he had done before. He said Yahweh your Elohim did to Jordan just as he had done to the Red Sea when he dried it up before us until we crossed over. This is proof that Yahweh did it once, he can do it again. This is proof that Yahweh is not limited. This is proof that Yeshua Messiah is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Joshua tells them that Yahweh did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of Yahweh is powerful. The hand of Yahweh is powerful to save, it's powerful to transform, it's powerful to heal, just the same. We need to remember what Yahweh has done in the past. Remember the miracles. Remember the answer to prayer. Remember the works of power. We need to remember that Yahweh has not changed. He is still in the miracle business. He's still in the healing business. We need to remember that he is still the Elohim of Joshua. He's still the Elohim of David. He's still the Elohim of Daniel. And he's still the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember what he has done in the past and believe him to do it again. We need to put up some memorial stones in our lives because we need to remember the victories. We need to remember the blessings, and we need to remember the miracles that we encountered. So what do you need to remember? What do you need? Yahweh bless.